In the first part of this tutorial, we're going to work with image effects to create a metallic car image. And you'll see from my design in Illustrator at the moment, this is just CMYK. So I'm going to go into Photoshop and open up that concept car image. And from there, I'm going to open up the window menu, Extensions, Image Effects. And the image effects plugin that we have here has two buttons, one for generating a silver separation and one for generating a white separation for when you print onto metallic substrates. For now, all we need to concentrate on is the silver ink. So we click that and it's going to go through and then calculate the metallic effect for you, fully automatic. It's actually going to look at the different pixel values and calculate the right metallic effect for the different pixels within inside the image. It's actually doing some quite clever things. It's knowing that shadows, for example, absorb light, they don't reflect the light. So it's actually going to restrict putting metallic into the shadow areas. It's also going to stop putting metallic into the highlights. So realistically, it's doing everything for you and taking all the guesswork out. What we have to do now as a designer is to start editing this file. And the reason we say edit is that if you leave this image as it is, and here is the metallic separation to show you, you've got metallic elements throughout the whole design. So if everything's metallic, it's going to look quite flat and dull. You actually need contrast against four color versus metallic to make a design work. So we're going to make a mask, and luckily I've made one for you. So if we go onto the paths and put your cursor over the little icon, and then on your keyboard hold down the command key or Apple key if you're on a Mac, or the control key if you're on a PC, and then click and it will make a selection of the path for you. And you'll notice we've blacked out or masked out some of the window areas and headlights on the front. And that's really just because we need to get contrast again. We'd have non-metallic here next to metallic, next to non-metallic. It's going to bring that dimension to your design, and that's really the key to success with metallic printing, is getting contrast. Now from there, I'm just going to turn off the CMYK. I'm going to go Select Menu, Modify, Feather, and put a little bit of feathering around my cutout so I've got a softer edge. It's just a little tiny tip just to give you that little bit better imagery. From there, select Inverse, and all we're going to do, I've hit the Delete key. We're going to fill the background with white. So basically deleting all the area that you don't want to be metallic. So this tonal image here, this black and white image, is the silver ink separation. Where it's white you'd have no printing, and where it's solid you'd have 100% silver printing. Okay, so from there we're going to do another further edit. It's advisable when you're working with your metallic images to treat your metallic separation just as you would do with correct colour retouching for a 4-colour image. And let me explain that. If we bring up the curves and look at the shadow and highlight points, you'll see that our shadow point of our design, the bulk part of it is up here around the 90% mark. So it's not actually true solid. So I'm going to set my shadow point by taking this point in the top and moving it horizontally across until it meets that peak of the histogram. That's going to set my shadow point. Highlight's already done, so I can just click on OK. So let me just undo that so you can see the difference. Here to here. So if the bodywork at the front there was only measuring 90%, I'm guessing it's somewhere around 90%. Yeah, if you look on this little mark in the black, you'll see 80, 88, 89, 90. That's only going to be 90% of the metallic. So the less metallic effect you have in there in your design, the less metallic brilliance you're going to see. So just by pushing that up and setting your shadow point, you're actually going nearer to 100%. And that's just a little way of working with your file. Okay, so let's turn on the CMYK. We could turn it on and off. If you remember, we are working with metallic silver ink, and metallic silver has a value, or a visual value, of about 20 to 30% black. So when you add that to the colour, it is going to change the CMYK, and it is going to go darker because you put in another ink underneath there, but that's the nature of metallics. Now from there we could just save our file, but I'm going to show you how we can do more editing. Now on purpose we've done a little bit of a false mask down here. So if you look at this area here, really I don't want these flames to be metallic, but my mask, my clipping mask, was actually quite poorly done, and that was done on purpose. So I'm just going to show you how we can use like things like your eraser tool or any tool within Photoshop, and you can set them as you wish and then do your further edits. So I'm just going to do this manually and go through, and now my flames are correct. So it's just a normal editable separation. Okay, so from there we're going to save that file, save as, a TIFF, converted image, do that one with a silver ink. Now make sure you have your spot colour box ticked, otherwise it won't take the silver separation across into other application programs. Okay, we can close that one down and let's go back into Illustrator. From there we can go to our links, select the CMYK image, replace it with the silver, and it's going to bring that separation in for us. So now when we look at our file, we go turn off the CMYK, you can clearly see the silver ink separation. Okay, so next we're going to add some other elements to the design. Go to my layers, and first of all let's add in this picture frame. Now the picture frame is kind of a silvery grey frame, and we could have had this as, you know, silver in this top left hand corner gradating down to 0 silver and made it all blend. But in my opinion, if you have too much metallic effect, especially around the outside in a picture frame like this, it's going to detract the eye from the focal point, which is the concept car image. So I'm only going to put a small amount of metallic in there, and I'm going to do that where I put this magenta band. So I'm just going to change it from magenta to silver. So it's going to have this silver bead that goes around the outside edge, but the rest of it's going to be grey. So again, we're looking at contrast. We're going to have CMYK process, next to metallic, next to non-metallic. Then you get to the car, and it's going to be metallic car. So when you move the print around, light's going to bounce off these areas differently to the CMYK, and that's what brings your design to life. Without that, your image is going to look flat. Less is more with metallics. Try work on a ratio of 30 to 40% of the design in metallic and 60-70% approximately in CMYK. You've got to think about when there's no light shining on your design, what's going to happen. And with metallics, when there's no light shining on them, they look very dark and very dull. So if everything was metallic, your whole design would look dark and dull without any light on it. But having that ratio of 30 to 40% metallic, 60-70% in process, you're always going to have visual clarity in your design. And that gives you the interaction when the person picks up the print and moves it around. Next, we're going to work with these embellishments, and I'm just going to pick them up, and I'm going to make them silver. So we could just leave that as it is, but if you notice in this top left hand corner, it's kind of losing its appearance because it's blending in with the background almost. It's fine on the darker areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick those elements up again, I'm going to duplicate them, and I am going to hide them out of the way. So I've just used Command 3 to hide my selection. I'm now going to select these bottom embellishments, and I'm going to make those black, and I'm going to make them 60%, and I'm going to make them overprint. So actually they're going to overprint the background. I'm going to use those like a drop shadow. Now I'm going to bring those embellishments back that I hid, so I'm going to use Command Option 3 just to bring them back in. Now at the moment these top ones, let me see, hide those out of the way, yep. Put those as silver, that's that. Okay, so we've got one on top of the other, one is silver and one is not. So I'm just going to take these and top ones in silver, and I'm going to use my arrow keys to nudge them, one nudge to the left, one nudge up. And that's just going to create almost like a three-dimensional drop shadow to it. Next we have to do the same thing on this side. So select the silver one, do one nudge up, one nudge to the right. And this one is one nudge up, one nudge to the left. I think it was that way, or did I do this one the wrong way around? I did it the wrong way around. That needs to be that direction. Okay, and then this final one is going to be nudge to the right, nudge up. I think I've done those the right way. And drop shadow at the bottom. Yeah, drop shadow on the bottom there. And drop shadow, probably should have done that down. Okay, that's it. Make sure I've got this one right on the other side. Yeah. Do it that way. So play around, get your little flourishes done. It's really all about just trying to pick out something in this area to set itself apart from the background. So I think offsetting it that way works better. But it's entirely up to you. That's all you're trying to do, is just create this thing that stands out a little bit different in the corner. Okay, so next we're going to use some text. So this was again just putting everything in magenta that we're going to colour up. You could put it in silver, it could be silver text. I think it's going to be a little bit too much with silver, so I'm just actually going to make mine white out. Makes it a little bit visually better. Then we're going to add the plaque to the front, which was the information about image effects. And again, I could have done metallic gradients, but I just want to have a subtle accent of metallic. So the outer frame, make it silver. Okay, and then we added in the ColorLogic logo. And that was it really. It's all about just adding in the various elements and colour them up. And if you look at our separation preview, turn off the CMYK, you will see we have the silver embellishments, silver frames, and the car. Now, obviously, this will be your own design, so you wouldn't have a ColorLogic logo on there, you would have your own, so put your business logo in there, and you can do whatever you like with your logos. Okay, so there we have a quick demonstration of how to use ColorLogic for the ColorLogic image effects plugin for creating metallic separations for silver ink. In the next part of the tutorial we're going to do the same thing again. This time we're going to use a white ink separation for printing onto metallic substrates. And let's go and do this again, but for white ink printing. So, as before, go into Photoshop. I'm going to open up the 4-color image. And this time, with the image effects plugin, we're going to go to white ink. Basically, white ink's the opposite of silver. So, we run the plugin, and we're going to do some opposite things to what we did before. So, let's just wait for it to generate that separation. We go to our masks, we make a selection of the mask, we feather the selection, we then inverted the selection, and on the background we filled it with white, but we're doing the opposite this time, so this time we need to fill it with black. And what that does, the black is solid, it's where 100% of the ink is going to print, and the white bit is where nothing's going to print. So 100% solid is where 100% white ink is going to be printing, which is confusing when you look at your screen and you see everything in black, but that's your white ink plate. Now we've given the white ink separation a colour value of 30% yellow, just so you can see it on the screen. You cannot see opaque white on your computer monitor, so you have to give it a different colour. So it's not going to print 30% yellow, it's going to print with white, but you've got to give that spot colour a value. Okay, so from there we can save our file. And where to do it? This one with the white one. Again, make sure you get your spot colour saved. We can then close that file down. Obviously, making sure we forgot to do this bit around here. Yeah, we forgot to do that bit. So on this one, we're going to use a paintbrush. It'll be easy for me to use a paintbrush. Yeah, and we use a paintbrush filled with 100% black, which will allow me to then go through and colour up that offending bit of my drop shadow. Sorry, my cutout I didn't do 100% right. Okay, so there we're in. So, save the file, close that down, go into Illustrator, update the link, this time with a white one. Okay, so we're getting there. Now this is where it gets more complicated. When you're working with white ink separations, you have to do everything in reverse, making your knockout masks and blocking out the area where you don't want the substrate to come through. And that can be quite complex depending on your design. So we're going to try this one now. So with this design here, with the border, we're going to have to put white ink over the different elements. So typically you'd have to pick everything up, you'd have to do your knockout masks, and it can be quite confusing. This is why ColorLogic actually has a high-end colour separation system called the Processed Metallic Colour System that will do all this fully automatic for you as you're designing. You actually never have to make a white separation when you design with the full ColorLogic system. However, for this we are going to have to do that. So let me find the easiest way to do this. So you're going to have to pick up an element, and every element on this design is going to have to be made white. And the easiest way to do that is to pick up each item, go to your appearance, and then put in a new layer and put it to white and set it to overprint. Pick up this one and we'll go through and we'll add these all in around. See if I can pick a few of those up at a time. No, it doesn't like doing that. This is where things can be a little bit slow. Luckily this design is actually quite simple. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to do this work, and then I'll speed it up in the demonstration so you don't have to sit and watch me doing all the white ink masking. Okay, so what's happened there is I've coloured up white over everything. That's your overprint, and if I turn on my overprint preview, let's just take a look at the white plate that's been generated so far. All we have to work on next is this band which we had in silver. So before we had this silver band here. So if it was silver before, we actually needed white. Document white. And what document white is means nothing's going to print. So your silver substrate is going to show through that white area. This is why designing with white is also quite complicated, because it's the opposite of what you think, and it's opposite of your natural designing. You know, if you're thinking that it should be silver substrate, but you've got to colour it up as white document to make it work, which is crazy. So from there, turn on our overprint preview. And we're going to add in our embellishments. So we're going to go for the corner embellishments this time. Again, as we did before, we're going to select them all. I'm going to first of all colour up them. I'm going to do it slightly different to the first one. Colour it up as black, 60%, and make them overprint. That gives me the drop shadow. Next, I'm going to duplicate them, colour them up as, in this instance, they need to be white, document white, because it's supposed to be silver. Turn off the overprint, and now I'm going to go pick up and go one to the right, one down, one to the left, one down, one up, one left, one up, one right, and that this time should give me all my drop shadows correctly. Okay, so the white is where you're actually going to see the silver substrate come through. Again, opposite of what you're thinking. Next I'm going to go to the text. We had that as white out text. So this time we don't colour it up as white, because otherwise the silver substrate would come through. You colour it up as the spot white. Okay. Next, add on the plaque. And again, this is where things can get quite complicated. But I'm going to cheat with this one. Let's see. I don't think there's an easy way to cheat really. Normally I would take a grouped item like that and put a white over the top of it. I would normally take something like that, background. If I just take that and colour it up as white and put that over the top and set it to overprint, it would then make everything as a spot white. But I don't want that frame. The frame's got to be metallic, so again this is where it gets quite complicated. So now what I have to do, take this inner one, luckily there's a nice cheat somewhere always in a design, copy that design, paste it back over the top, colour it up as white, set to overprint, and then in the background with that little pink box, we need that to be, what do you think, white, so that the silver substrate will show through. Okay, then you would typically add in your logo. In this instance we're going to add in your logo and just make sure that's overprinting, which it is. So quickly and easily we've actually now created a white ink separation which is got silver embellishments coming through and the silver from the car. With our files completed, we can now, if we have the right software, visualize them on your computer screen. Visualization software for seeing these type of effects on your monitors do usually run into many thousands. I do happen to have a program on my computer. We're a partner with a company called Esco, which has a program called the Esco Studio Visualizer, and this will allow you to see your designs either with metallics in this instance on your computer screen, but also you can use the Esco Visualizer for seeing different print finishes such as varnishing, embossing, debossing. There's many different effects that you can actually do with it. All I've done is made a PDF file and dragged the PDF file into this viewing tool, and it will recognize my silver separation and my CMYK, and then it puts in some default paper. So I'm just going to show you how this would visualize. So I'm just going to change the substrate to satin coated. The process color, I'm going to do this as a color logic job, so color logic CMYK, and then the silver I'm going to have again as the color logic silver. This is just to visualize on the screen. I'm going to change the orientation of the layers, so the silver prints first, and I'm going to change the environment to an office environment, and I'm going to update my image. What that's going to do is then show me my design in metallic. So as I move it around, you can see the silver frame that we added in, silver embellishments in the corner, and the bodywork of the car. So it's just a nice subtle use of metallics without having to go overkill. Okay, so that's that one. And whilst I'm here, I'm actually going to make some images. Kind of a cool thing you can do with the Esco product is make photographic images of your visualized file. So I'm doing this so that I can actually use these and update them on our website, and then everything will match together. So save that, and then we'll do the white ink version. So that was that one. The white ink version, same thing. We have our design. This time I'm going to edit the white. It's going to be opaque white. Let's switch that on. Bring that below the four color. The four color we were doing as a core logic. And then the paper. In this instance, the paper is going to be a foil. So I'm going to use a foil board. Update my file and put on the environment. Now you'll see the foil is vastly different to what you would get with metallic ink. Obviously foil has a higher reflectance than a metallic ink does. So there we have the white ink separation file that we created. And again, I'm just going to make a visual of this one, and we can use that on our website to match all this together. So very quickly, very easily, visualizing the files using the Esco Studio Visualizer, or if you have any other type of visualization software that can do metallics, then of course you can use your system. Anybody has any questions, they can contact us at support@color-logic.com.